It is an error, but not a fatal or finite one, as you see the Eagles still leaders in their division by a game and a half over the Cowboys. And when you assess the road ahead, maybe opportunity to exercise demons for Philadelphia and that offense that just can't seem to get it going. This is a bottom four scoring offense over the last 5 weeks, but Vegas awaits for those bad birds. Back in studio with the guys, and maybe solace when you look at that schedule, but man, it's the NFL and anybody can get anybody on any day. This was an opportunity to get one game away from clinching that division for the Philadelphia Eagles. They do not take advantage. When you look at the grand scheme of things, Mac, this is hope offered to the Dallas Cowboys, but how real is that hope?
It's real. It's real because of the struggles of the Philadelphia Eagles. Even though they have a favorable schedule the next few weeks, you know, the Raiders and the Commanders. But to your point, Joe, if you haven't been watching the NFL, when you think you know what is going to happen, you don't know. That's why the parity has been so impactful this season because of upsets. You know, a few weeks ago, we just saw Carolina take care of business against the Rams. We saw Cleveland beat the Green Bay Packers. That's the NFL. So, yes, we believe the Eagles, even in the midst of their struggles, they should be able to win the next two games for sure. Against the Commanders, against the Raiders, against the Commanders. But anything can happen. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you just got to take care of your business. What happened this past Thursday night should be an eye-opening experience for Dallas. Coming out, sleeping at the wheel, allowing a game to kind of get out of hand. You fought back, but it was a little too late, and you lost one to Detroit. Yep. They're too good of a team to have the struggles that we witnessed this past Thursday night. So now, seeing that the window of opportunity is still open, take care of your business, because I ask you guys this question right here. Who do you trust more offensively between these two teams? The Cowboys or the Eagles?
Cowboys. It was a missed opportunity a week ago. They sort of came back down to earth, but there's so much firepower there, and what Dak Prescott's doing, give me that all day.
And I'm right there with. That's why I think they have a realistic chance to make this thing extremely close towards the last week of the season.
And Emory, again, just to sort of further outline today's NFL, 2 weeks ago in primetime, it comes down to a single play, 2-point conversion in overtime between those Commanders and a very good team in the Denver Broncos. This past week, the Las Vegas Raiders hang in a game, about a one-score game for much of that Sunday against those Denver Broncos. Just to give us an idea of what we might see in Las Vegas versus Philadelphia, that matchup closer than maybe we assume, not knowing who the quarterback's going to be for Las Vegas?
Right, and we saw then the Washington Commanders go out and get shut out by the Minnesota Vikings. So it's just crazy.
This league, man.
It's crazy. Every week there's something new, and with them being a common opponent because of the division, it makes it harder to predict what the Eagles can go out there and potentially do. But in terms of the Eagles and Raiders matchup, I mean, the Raiders' defense will be active. And this is an offensive line we saw tonight have some issues in terms of protection for Jalen Hurts. So he was under siege a lot in this ball game. The Raiders will try to bring the pressure. They do have the ability to do that. I think their secondary competes well, and it all depends on if A.J. Brown wants to play or doesn't want to play. Determines on how effective he's going to be. So there is some concern here. But I do trust the Eagles' defense more so in this matchup because of whoever the quarterback is going to be, and there's no real run game threat. So this could be an opportunity where the defense can say, here, offense, here's multiple chances at bat. Get us 24 points, and we can win this game.
You know, we could sit here and play the schedule game, but I don't think the Eagles are best suited doing that. They're best suited looking internally, figuring out what they're doing wrong. How important, Mac, is it for this team to look inward for the solutions rather than towards that schedule for them?
You know what? If they haven't had one already, I think it's time for a players-only meeting, honestly, because they're too good of a team to have these struggles. They're too good of a team to be in the midst of a 3-game losing streak.
Who calls that meeting? Is it the guy who just turned it over 5 times?
It should
Is
be.
it the left tackle? Is it the running back?
Or
is it the wide receiver who's just calling for the ball?
Give me a Lane
Johnson, not even active.
Brandon Graham.
That's what he's there for.
Yeah, Brandon Graham. Because
just got back.
It's hard to explain the struggles that we're seeing. It's hard to explain. It's one thing if they didn't have talent or they had issues in certain areas of their team. Up and down their roster, they have championship experience, and they have an abundance of talent. So what is going on? Why are these things happening? Where is the disconnect? And I talked about the injuries, I understand, but everyone has injuries, guys.
You played on a historic defense that had a ton of talent and a ton of alphas.
Like 14 leaders.
14 leaders. How does that apply to this Eagles team where there's so many stars? How did all of you guys keep that together to where it didn't implode? Like it looks like it's imploding here.
Leadership. I think great teams, the coaches don't have to discipline the players, right, when things are not going right. Coaches, good teams, when things aren't going right, you have players on the roster that identify and they see, you know what, this is what needs to happen right now.
Self-policing.
Self-policing. And I think quality coaches will tell you the best teams are the teams they have where they don't have to go out and police what's going on. And you have to address the situation as an individual first and foremost. When you know you're doing wrong, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm doing wrong. And that's the only way you can be better is to identify the problem. And right now, there are a lot of problems happening, not just on the roster, but on the coaching staff as well, especially the offensive coaching staff. So for them, we keep giving them the same grace we're giving the Kansas City Chiefs. We believe if they do this, they can get it right.
We've seen them do it. Right? Proof of concept.
Yes. And they've earned that right to receive that grace. But we're living in a new NFL season. Well, what you did last year means nothing. For what you did the last 3 or 4 years means nothing. It's about the here and now. And the here and now is you're not as good as you were. And you are vulnerable. You know how you said yesterday that some teams they're not afraid of Kansas City anymore because they see how vulnerable they are? The same can be said for the for the Eagles. And I can tell you what really jumpstart that opportunity of saying we can get them. When they allowed the Dallas Cowboys to come from behind 20 points, right? A 21-point lead, 20-point lead, whatever it was, and the Cowboys somehow came back and won that ball game, that provided the window of opportunity for whoever sees the Philadelphia Eagles. And you still got to factor in, anytime you play Philly, you're getting the opposing team's best effort because of they always the sticky Lombardi a year ago.
And it's a good point because they've lost these 3 games in a row 3 different ways. That's a pass-heavy attack in Dallas. Chicago runs all over them. And then just a messy football game, turnover-laden here in this most recent loss. They are still in the driver's seat, but man, you check that mirror, there's a sheriff getting closer in the rear view. As for the AFC playoff picture, massive result here for the LA Chargers in overtime. A win, they move up to the 5 seed, your top wild card spot. With a loss, they would have moved all the way out to number 8. All right, so let's dive in. Now 9 wins there, not likely to catch the Broncos in the division, but you don't exhale, but man, you got more wind in your sails moving forward here, Emory, for the LA Chargers, knowing you have that game in hand and a big overtime win.
And how they won it. And this is why you go and get a Jim Harbaugh, because of the situational football and the situational moments. You don't charger yourself out of a game that we used to say when these guys get in these tight spots, they let the game slip away. They close out a ball game. So when you look at that AFC playoff picture, you have to like what you've seen from all of the coaches that are currently in the postseason, because these are guys that when you could look to that sideline in a tight moment, and he is as locked in as you are on the field, you feel confident to go out there and make a play. If you look to the sideline and you see kind of bickering, you see infighting, you see coaches fussing at the referee, you're not focused, he's not focused, then that plays itself out on the field. So I like what I've seen from the Chargers all season long. I said this earlier in the year, this is probably the best game we've seen from Justin Herbert in terms of his toughness, his mental toughness, and we're seeing it throughout the team. They're running the football when they want to. They're getting the turnovers when they need to. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. They're situationally stopping the run. So everything we've seen from the Chargers shows you this is not a regular season team. What we saw last year in the postseason probably won't happen again because of how they've locked in, I feel like, on both sides of the ball.
That's a great point. Coach Harbaugh, after they drive down the field in overtime, is out on the numbers, ready to hug his quarterback, knowing what he just went through with that broken hand, getting his team into field goal range, and so much trust in the kicker, in Cameron Dicker, with great reason, as he's pretty much automatic right now, very much in his flow state. Let's take another look at that AFC playoff picture, Mac, because I want to obviously give credit here to the Los Angeles Chargers, but shift our focus to who this affects, this outcome here. 9-4, I mean, it doesn't slam the door on the right side of the picture here on those teams in the hunt, but the Colts, they got all sorts of issues. They're bringing in a 44-year-old tomorrow to try and figure things out and hold on for dear life. You got a Ravens team, a Chiefs team, and a Dolphins team that don't possess the tiebreakers you need, so you're going to need the Texans or the Jaguars, depending the loser of that division or second place of that division, to come back down to earth. You're going to need some losses from the Bills and the Chargers. Does this almost, I don't want to say stamp it, but start to synthesize those top 7 in the AFC?
It feels like it. I mean, by default, the Chargers are in a really good situation, especially with them winning tonight, because of all the issues the other teams in the hunt currently dealing with. I mean, the Colts, their playoff hopes, for me, I think they're dead. they're gone. You know, losing Daniel Jones and now not knowing if you may have Riley Leonard,
A rookie.
You might have to bring in a grandfather and Phillip Rivers to be your starting quarterback the rest of the way, and you were already struggling anyway. Come on, let's keep it real. I don't think they have a shot, and it's unfortunate because they had a really good thing going, but because of the injuries, it's pretty much disco dead. And then with the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, they're struggling. Lamar Jackson clearly is not healthy. When will he get healthy to become the MVP caliber player that we've seen? We don't know. Kansas City can't get out of their own way. So the Chargers, they're in a unique situation. They can probably win two of the remaining 4 ball games and be good to get into the playoffs. But to Emory's point, this is a very, very good team, well coached. But getting into the playoffs is not just it. You got to find a way to be successful.
That offensive line's an issue.
And that's where I was going to go. Can they be successful with how bad their offensive line is? Because their offensive line won't get healthier. They're not getting Joe Alt and Slater back this season. So the guys you currently have, you have to make it work with them. Can they do that? Because they were fortunate tonight to be able to be bad offensively and still win. But in playoff football, where mistakes are at the bare minimum and you're playing against more efficient, smoother offenses, can you get things going? Because to this point, they haven't had success in postseason play with Coach Harbaugh and Justin Herbert working together.
And when you look at they're the 4 seed right now. That means they would have to play 5 seed. They would have to play Pittsburgh edge rushers
In Pittsburgh.
And
that would be a rematch.
And you look at all those teams in the AFC, it's all defense. And that scares me for the Chargers.
Good point.
And that's why I like the fact that they ran the ball tonight rather well, because they're going to have to do that to calm that pressure down. Everyone in front of them can rush the pass.
And that's a good point, because regardless how it folds in the AFC playoff picture, they probably will be on the road because they're not catching the Denver Broncos. I mean, they mathematically still, but right now as we see, they wouldn't
be a big swing.
They would be on the road traveling.
Yep.
So the first round of playoffs, and you know, I like our chances in Pittsburgh if it's 15 degrees outside and it's ugly and dreary and the quarterback got a hand problem.
I'll tell you what, on Sunday we did see Kansas City lose and get closer to what feels inevitable, but Chris Jones, he was moving some people up front. George Karlaftis as well. That's what stands in front of the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 15. A look at your current odds to win Super Bowl 60. And interesting, that is a NFC-heavy left side of the board here. Rams, Seahawks, and Packers, your 3 favorites. The Bills, the first AFC representative, followed by the Patriots and Broncos. The Eagles, despite this loss, 11-1 money and still top 8 in their chances.